I usually make my Christmas broadcast to the Commonwealth from Windsor or Buckingham Palace. This year, I thought I would use the presence of 2,000 children at this occasion, organised by the Save the Children Fund in the Albert Hall, here in the heart of London, to send this special message to the children of the Commonwealth. Those of you present are the immediate audience for my broadcast, but I'm also speaking by radio and television to people throughout the world. All parents would like their children to grow up in peace and tranquility. But for most of this century, the people of this world have had to live through bewildering changes and upheavals. Some of the changes have been for the better, but others might even threaten the world we live in. There are some children who are much less fortunate than others, for they come from countries where nature makes life very hard, with floods and droughts and other disasters destroying crops, making it very difficult to find enough for everyone to eat. Quite a lot of you have written to me during the last year or so, saying how worried you are about the future of our planet. Many of you will have heard of the greenhouse effect, and perhaps you have heard too about even more urgent problems caused by the pollution of our rivers and seas and the cutting down of the great forests. These problems don't affect just the countries where they are happening, and they make neighbourly cooperation throughout the world a pressing necessity. With all your lives before you, I am sure you take an optimistic view of the future. But it is already too late to prevent all forms of damage to the natural world. Some species of wild plants and animals are sadly bound to become extinct. The great thing to remember is that it is not too late to reduce the damage if we can change our attitudes and behavior. You've all seen pictures of the Earth taken from space. Unlike all the other planets in the solar system, Earth shimmers green and blue in the sunlight and looks a very pleasant place to live. These pictures should remind us that the future of all life on Earth depends on how we behave towards one another and how we treat the plants and animals that share our world with us. Men and women have shown themselves to be very clever at inventing things, right back to the time when they found out how much easier it was to move things about on wheels, up to the present time when rockets and computers make it possible for people to travel away from our world out into the mystery of space. But these technical skills are not enough by themselves. They can only come to the rescue of the planet if we also learn to live by the golden rule which Jesus Christ taught us: love thy neighbor as thyself. Many of you will have heard the story of the Good Samaritan and of how Christ answered the question from a clever lawyer who was trying to catch him out: who is my neighbor? Jesus told of the traveler who was mugged and left injured on the roadside, where several important people saw him and passed by without stopping to help. His neighbor was the man who did stop, cared for him and made sure he was being well looked after before he resumed his own journey. It's not very difficult to apply that story to our own times and to work out that our neighbors are those of our friends or complete strangers who need a helping hand. Do you think they might also be some of the living species threatened by spoiled rivers? Or some of the children in places like Ethiopia and Sudan who don't have enough to eat? The exciting news of the last few months has been the way in which people in both East and West Europe have begun to think about the future in a less unfriendly way, more as neighbours. It's still hard for us to be sure what is going to happen as a result of these great events. But it would be splendid to think that in the last years of the 20th century, Christ's message about loving our neighbours as ourselves might at last be heeded. If it is, they'll be good years for you to grow up. If we can reduce selfishness and jealousy, dishonesty and injustice, the 90s can become a time of peace and tranquility for children and grown-ups, and a time for working together for the benefit of our planet as a whole. You children have something to give us which is priceless. You can still look at the world with a sense of wonder and remind us grown-ups that life is wonderful and precious. Often a child's helplessness and vulnerability brings out the best in us. Part of that best in us could be a particular tenderness towards this earth, which we share as human beings, all of us. And together, as the nations of the world, will leave to our children and our children's children. We must be kind to it for their sake. In the hope that we will be kind and loving to one another, not just on Christmas Day, but throughout the year, I wish you all a very happy Christmas. God bless you. And where are you from? Swaziland. Yes.
Yeah. Do you like being a queen?
Yeah. It's a very busy life.
Yeah.
But it
How big is your palace?
My palace is quite large. Has very long corridors to walk down it, especially if one's late. And you must come from Ghana. Yes, I recognize this. Oh, Celtic cloth. It's very smart. Mm-hmm. And where do you come from?
Brunei.
Brunei, do you?
What are you going to buy Prince William for Christmas?
Do I?
What are you going to buy Prince William for
Well,
Christmas?
I don't think I better say it too loudly, because he might hear me, mightn't he?
Do you get nervous in front of all those people?
Well, sometimes one does, yes. It's quite something. And,
Do you enjoy your job as the queen?
I find it very interesting, yes. Had lots of opportunities to meet people and visit countries.
Is the crown very heavy?
It's quite heavy, yes. You don't really want to walk about very long in it. But it's meant to be heavy, I think.
I hope you have a nice Christmas.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much.
Do you go to the church on Christmas?
Yes, we go to church, all of us on Christmas Day, and sing some of the carols and Christmas hymns that everybody knows, which is very nice, and all the familiar ones.
Do you like jewellery?
Like jewellery? Well, it's an optional extra, I think. I don't know that it matters very much. I think there's priorities in life. I mean, humans are very strange like that. Of course, the animal kingdom's not above having its own methods of dressing up. So I suppose we ought to be allowed ours as well, Louis.
I'm from Malaysia.
Malaysia.
Can I ask you a question?
Where I've just been. I've just been staying in Malaysia,
Well,
in Kuala
actually,
Lumpur.
well, did you like it?
Oh, yes, very much so. I hadn't been there for 17 years, so there was a lot of changes.
So, do you believe in Father Christmas?
Do I believe in Father Christmas? I like to believe in Father Christmas, yes. Thank you very much for this, and I wish you all a very happy Christmas.